Oakland, California. Private Training Gym. March 17, 1973. George Foreman stepped into the gym with that characteristic smile that intimidated opponents. He was at his peak. 40 wins, 37 by knockout. He had destroyed Joe Frazier in just 2 rounds 3 months earlier, ripping the heavyweight world title away. 6'4", 220 pounds of muscle that turned men into punching bags. His punches carried power that doctors said was impossible. A jab sent men to the canvas, a cross-erased consciousness. He was unstoppable, invincible, and he knew it. The gym was empty. Foreman had rented the space for private training, just him, his trainer Archie Moore, and 2 sparring partners. But when he entered, he found something unexpected. A small Asian man in the center of the ring. Barefoot, no gloves, black pants and a simple t-shirt, performing strange movements. They weren't boxing punches. Quick, fluid, almost hypnotic. George stopped and watched with that mocking smile. Who the hell is this? Archie Moore appeared with an expression George had never seen before, excitement mixed with caution. George, this is Bruce Lee, Hollywood's kung fu instructor. He asked to train here. He wanted to meet you. Bruce turned. Intense, piercing eyes. 5'7", 135 pounds. Next to Foreman, he looked like a child beside a bear. George laughed out loud. Archie, are you kidding? This is the dangerous guy? I've eaten bigger steaks. Bruce didn't react. No anger, no wounded pride, just that unshakable intensity. George climbed into the ring, still laughing. Okay, little man, what do you want? A photo? An autograph? Or do you really believe in those kung fu stories? I came to show you something you've never seen, something that will change what you think about fighting. Foreman almost choked with laughter. Show me something about fighting? Kid, I just won the world title. I knocked out Joe Frazier. What do you weigh? 60 kilos? I carry heavier bags in training. Bruce stepped forward. It's not about weight or muscles. It's about understanding the human body, knowing where to strike, moving in a way that the brain can't process in time. George, you're strong. But strength without precision is just noise. I can prove it to you. There was something in Bruce's voice. Absolute certainty, not arrogance, knowledge, like a surgeon talking about anatomy. Bruce didn't make empty threats. He stated facts. Archie Moore intervened. George, maybe you should listen. I've seen some things this guy does. It's very different. Foreman looked at his trainer in disbelief. Archie, have you lost your mind? This guy's an actor. He makes movies. It's not real. Bruce showed an expression. Not anger. Almost pity. Want me to prove it? I just need 3 seconds. You stand still. I show one movement. If you're not impressed, I leave and never mention it again. But if I show you something real, you give me the respect of admitting there are things you still don't understand about combat. Foreman was many things, but not a coward. He wouldn't refuse a challenge. He threw the towel to the ground. Okay, little Bruce Lee, 3 seconds. Show me this kung fu magic. But when you fail, get out of here and stop spreading those ridiculous stories about martial arts being superior to boxing. That's an insult to those who really bleed in this ring. Bruce nodded. He walked until he was 2 meters from Foreman. 3 seconds. That's all. Watch my right hand. Don't take your eyes off it. And try to tell me what you saw. Foreman stood in his relaxed stance, arms at his sides, that mocking smile still on his face. Archie Moore and the 2 sparring partners approached the ropes. The gym fell silent. The only sound was Bruce Lee's controlled breathing. 1 second passed. Bruce remained completely still. He didn't even blink. His right hand was at his side, relaxed, fingers slightly curved. Foreman watched with minimal interest, like someone watching a bar magic trick. 2 seconds. Still nothing. Bruce remained motionless like a statue. But his eyes were doing something strange. They weren't focused on Foreman's face. They were scanning, moving in micro-movements, mapping, calculating, searching. 3 seconds. And then Bruce moved. But calling it a movement would be imprecise. It was an explosion. His right hand didn't travel from the side of his body to the target. It simply appeared there, as if it had teleported. There was no visible preparation, no wind-up, none of the signs every boxer learns to read. Bruce's hand was at his side, and then, without any perceptible transition, his fingers were pressed against Foreman's neck. Not hitting, just touching. 2 fingers, precisely positioned on the right carotid artery of the neck. The pressure was light, almost gentle, but the implication was terrifying. George Foreman froze, not from fear, but from cognitive shock. His brain was trying to process what had just happened. He didn't see Bruce's hand move. He was looking straight at it, as instructed, and still didn't see it. One moment the hand was down, the next moment it was on his neck. There was no blur of motion, no sound of air displacement. It was instantaneous, impossible. Bruce kept his fingers on Foreman's neck for another 2 seconds, then slowly withdrew them. If this were a real fight, your carotid artery would be collapsed now. You'd have 4 to 7 seconds of consciousness before passing out. No matter how strong you are, no matter how many titles you have. The human body has vulnerabilities that can't be trained away. And I know all of them. The smile had completely vanished from Foreman's face. He brought his hand to his own neck, touching the spot where Bruce's fingers had been. His breathing was rapid, not from physical effort, but from something deeper. Adrenaline, the realization that something fundamentally impossible had just happened. How? Foreman's voice came out hoarse, almost inaudible. How did you do that? I was looking, I was focused, and I saw nothing. Bruce took a step back, his expression returning to that neutral calm. You didn't see it because your brain isn't trained to process that kind of movement. Boxers learn to read preparations, to see the body adjust before the punch. You read shoulders, hips, feet. You anticipate based on patterns. But I don't use patterns. I eliminate unnecessary movements. My strike doesn't start at the shoulder. It starts and ends at the target. There's nothing to read, nothing to anticipate. Archie Moore was leaning against the ropes, eyes wide. My God, I saw it, but I don't believe it. George, did you see that? Foreman didn't answer right away. He was staring at his own hands, hands that had knocked out dozens of men, hands that carried devastating power. And for the first time in his life, George Foreman understood that power wasn't everything. Bruce began speaking again, his voice low but piercing. In boxing, you have rules. No blows below the belt. No blows to the back of the neck. No small joints. Those rules exist to protect the fighters. But those rules also create blind spots. You train for decades to defend against punches in the places boxing allows you to punch. But what about here? Bruce lightly touched his own neck. And here? He touched the solar plexus. And here? He indicated the inside of the knee. The human body has 108 main pressure points. 36 of them can cause immediate unconsciousness. 12 can cause death. I spent 30 years studying those points, practicing on wooden dummies, specific bags, on training partners who knew how to fall safely. You spent 30 years perfecting devastating punches. I spent 30 years perfecting surgical precision. George Foreman finally found his voice again. But it was different, lower, without that unshakable confidence. So you're saying that in a street fight, no rules, you would beat me? Bruce slowly shook his head. It's not about winning or losing. It's about understanding that there are different kinds of fighting. In boxing, with rules, with gloves, in a ring, you would destroy me. Your power is real. Your talent is undeniable. But if there were no rules, if it were life or death, then it wouldn't be about strength. It would be about who hits the vital points first. And I've trained my entire life to do exactly that. Faster than anyone can react. Foreman was silent for long seconds. Reality was rearranging itself in his mind. He had just witnessed something that challenged everything he knew about combat. Show me again. Foreman's voice was almost pleading. Please, I need to see it again. I need to understand. Bruce agreed. He returned to the starting position. This time, Foreman was hyper-focused. Every muscle in his body was tense, every sense on maximum alert. He wasn't going to blink. He wasn't going to look away for even a fraction of a second. Bruce took a deep breath and moved again. And again, Foreman didn't see it. This time, Bruce's hand appeared near the solar plexus, not touching, just close enough for Foreman to feel the minimal displacement of air. A real strike there, with penetrating force, would collapse the diaphragm. You wouldn't be able to breathe for 20 to 30 seconds, time enough to end any confrontation. Bruce stepped back. Want to try a third time? Foreman shook his head, defeated. No, I get it. Whatever it is you do, it's real. It's very real. And it's terrifying. The two men looked at each other for a long moment. There was no more mockery, no more disrespect. There was mutual recognition. Two masters of different domains, understanding that both had reached the pinnacle in their respective paths. Could you teach me that? Foreman's question surprised even Bruce. Not overnight. It would take years, decades perhaps. But the basic principles? Yes. I could show you how to see the body differently, how to understand vulnerabilities, how to add precision to your power. Imagine your punches, which are already devastating, landing not just with force, but with exact anatomical knowledge. Foreman nodded slowly. He extended his huge hand. Bruce shook it. The size difference was comical, but in that moment, it didn't matter. Before Bruce left the ring, Foreman asked one last question. Bruce, can I ask you something honestly? Do you really believe you could knock me out? In a real fight? Bruce stopped, considered carefully. His answer was measured, honest. George, you have 40 kilos more than me. Your punches carry enough force to break bones. If you land clean, it's likely I wouldn't get up. But boxing taught you to punch where you see an opening. I was trained to create openings where none exist. To attack before you realize you're vulnerable. So yes, I believe I could. Not because I'm stronger, not because I'm tougher, but because I understand the human body in a way boxing doesn't teach, and because I move in a way your brain wasn't trained to process. George Foreman watched Bruce Lee leave the gym that afternoon. The 135-pound man who had made the heavyweight world champion questioned everything he knew about fighting. Archie Moore approached. So, champ, what do you think? Foreman kept staring at the door Bruce had exited through. Archie, I think we boxers have a very limited view of what real combat is. That man, he doesn't fight like us. He doesn't think like us. And honestly, I don't want to find out what would happen in a no-rules situation, because for the first time in my life, I'm not sure I would win. In the years that followed, George Foreman never spoke publicly about that encounter, but in private conversations with close people, he occasionally mentioned it. There was this guy, a kung fu instructor, who showed me things I'll never forget. He touched me in a way that shouldn't have been possible. Too fast to see, too precise to defend. And I realized that strength, no matter how devastating, has limitations. But knowledge of the human body, that knowledge has no minimum weight, no weight class. And that guy had that knowledge at a level I'd never seen. Those 3 seconds changed something fundamental in George Foreman. They didn't make him less confident as a boxer, but they made him humble about the vast universe of combat that existed beyond the ring ropes. And sometimes, late at night, when he was alone in his gym, he thought about that hand appearing on his neck. Impossible, instantaneous, terrifying. And he wondered how many other things in the world existed that he still didn't understand. How many other masters in how many other disciplines had reached levels of skill that challenged what he considered possible. Bruce Lee had given him a gift that memorable day in the gym. Not a complete technical teaching, but something far more valuable and profound. The awareness that there is always more to learn. There are always perspectives that challenge our current understanding. And that true mastery doesn't come just from dominating what you know, but from respecting what you still don't comprehend. The 3 seconds that deeply frightened George Foreman forever weren't about humiliation. They were about revelation, a revelation that changed the champion forever. And that profound revelation would accompany him for the rest of his life.